story. The tree is an 18-foot Fraser fir. Those are the best, and hails from North Carolina, a farm that lost 7,000 trees to Hurricane Helene. It'll be placed in the Blue Room of the White House for the remainder of the holiday season. That does it for today. We are thankful you joined us, and we'll be back with another edition of America Decides tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. The Daily Report starts right now.
Welcome to the Daily Report on November 25th, 2024. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Tonight, another victory for Donald Trump. The president-elect scores a legal win after special counsel Jack Smith files to dismiss all federal charges against him. This as Trump swiftly fills out his cabinet, making decisions on most of the top roles in his administration before the holiday.
Special counsel Jack Smith asked the federal judge to dismiss the federal case accusing President-elect Donald Trump of plotting to overturn the 2020 election.
The judge, in very short order, agreed to dismiss it without prejudice.
Continuing with a criminal case against a sitting president is something that we have not envisioned.
President-elect Donald Trump puts the finishing touches on his picks for his cabinet. A majority of Americans, 59%, approve of his handling of the transition.
I'm going to evaluate each one of these candidates based on their ability to do the job.
Eric and Lau Menendez are asking the court to consider new evidence of their father's alleged sexual abuse in a bid to be resentenced for their crime.
We're hoping that by the end of that, or sometime sooner, that we will in fact get the brothers released.
But as we get closer to Thanksgiving, we're watching for the potential of snow in Denver and Salt Lake City. Those are two major airline hubs.
There's no question that the Thanksgiving weekend will be the highest on record.
Hello, thank you for joining us. We begin our report with what will likely be the end for both of the federal criminal cases against President-elect Donald Trump. Special counsel Jack Smith filed two motions today. One was to end the case on how Trump handled classified documents after his first presidency, where prosecutors had been appealing a previous dismissal. The other was to dismiss the 2020 election interference case. Judge Tanya Chutkan, who is overseeing the case, has agreed to do so. The move to end the cases is not exactly a surprise. Smith explains in his motions this is in line with long-standing Justice Department policy of not prosecuting a sitting president. In the election interference dismissal motion, Smith wrote, quote, "The government's position on the merits of the defendant's prosecution has not changed, but the circumstances have." The circumstances, of course, being Trump's election victory and inauguration in less than 2 months. A spokesperson for Trump said, quote, "The American people re-elected President Trump with an overwhelming mandate to make America great again. Today's decision by the DOJ ends the unconstitutional federal cases against President Trump and is a major victory for the rule of law." Meanwhile, Trump has finalized his cabinet secretary picks for his incoming administration, and CBS News polling shows 59% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of the presidential transition so far. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarland joins me now. Scott, walk us through how we got here, why the special counsel is moving to dismiss both of these cases.
This chapter in American history, this first ever federal criminal prosecution of a former president, really ended anticlimactically with this narrow 6-page filing late today from the special counsel Jack Smith saying his case is not flawed, his case didn't get weakened, but that you just cannot prosecute a sitting U.S. president, that the Constitution and the Department of Justice bar that. So he asked for the case to be not paused, not put on hold till 2029, but dismissed, therefore ending this 16-month odyssey of Donald Trump becoming the first president ever to be charged with felony crimes or any crime at all, the Supreme Court weighing in and issuing Trump and future presidents a form of presidential immunity, a second grand jury coming back, reporting up a new indictment against Donald Trump, and then this odyssey ends the week of Thanksgiving with Jack Smith surrendering the case because of the election.
Why is it an important distinction in the election interference case, Moston, that Jack Smith isn't moving to have the case dismissed based on merit but on circumstance? Why was it important for him to have that on the record?
Yeah, he's seeking to have this case dismissed and succeeded in having this case dismissed without prejudice, which would allow a future prosecution of Donald Trump for this case in 2029. Doesn't mean Jack Smith would bring the case, but that the case could be brought again after the Trump presidency. Legal expert Scott Frederickson, a former federal prosecutor, tells CBS News he would expect Trump to make a move to either have his new attorney general in 2025 seek to get this case dismissed with prejudice, or Trump will seek to pardon himself, to inoculate himself in 2029 from this case resurfacing, regenerating in some way, shape, or form.
Scott McFarland, thank you. Let's bring in CBS News legal expert and analyst Ricky Kleeman for more analysis. We just heard Scott say, Ricky, not put on hold until 2029, but dismissed. What is the legality here? Can they be brought again? Will they be likely?
Can they be brought again? Yes. Will it be likely? No. What you have here is precisely what Scott said. When you have a case that's dismissed without prejudice, what it really means is there is no assessment of the merits of the case. The special counsel, Jack Smith, was abundantly clear. He believes the case is strong. He believes that the case could go forward. He believes that he could get a conviction. But it is the quote-unquote circumstances he finds himself in. He went to the Department of Justice, to the Office of Legal Counsel. He conversed with them, had a discussion, and of course the policy of the Department of Justice is that you cannot indict nor can you try a sitting president. Do I expect that when Donald Trump is 82 in 2029 that he is going to be prosecuted? No, I don't. But if I am Donald Trump or his counsel, I might want to inoculate myself from that. So Scott has given you the two options, perhaps that he could have his Department of Justice seek to get it dismissed with prejudice. If it's before Judge Shania Chutkan, it is not going to get dismissed with prejudice. Or he could pardon himself, which would be another constitutional test.
What's your sense of what will happen to the other state cases that Trump is involved in for which he could not pardon himself?
Well, you have two very different sets of circumstances here. First of all, you have the Georgia case, which is just like Jack Smith's case. It's an election interference case. It's based on the same type of facts and circumstances. It is stalled in and of itself up in their appellate system on the basis of trying to disqualify Fani Willis. So ultimately, what's going to happen with that case, no one knows. But you will bet your bottom dollar if they try to try Donald Trump, they are not going to be able to do it for the same exact reasons. You cannot interfere, even though it's not a state rule, but you're not going to be able to interfere ultimately with the work of the President of the United States by tying him up in trial. However, there's a myriad of other defendants in that case. So if Fani Willis is not disqualified, are they going to let her go forward against those other defendants? That remains to be seen.
Because it remains to be seen what will happen to his co-defendants in the classified documents case that prosecutors are still appealing. Let's talk about that.
Well, that's really interesting because that's really tricky.
Okay.
What you're looking at is Judge Cannon, the judge in Fort Pierce, Florida. She dismissed the entire case, saying that the appointment of the special counsel was not legal. It was unconstitutional. So Jack Smith appealed that because the weight of other authority is that, of course, you can appoint a special counsel. So does the Trump Justice Department really want to go forward with an appeal? What if they would like a special counsel in a different kind of case? Or do they let it just kind of sit there? Or do they want it to disappear? And therefore, they're put in this tricky position.
One more question. We do have to let you go. But is it guaranteed that Trump's incoming DOJ would take over the appeal in that case? Or would Jack Smith and his team be able to finish it out?
Jack Smith and his team are gone.
Okay.
He is going to leave of his own accord. And if not, Donald Trump has said he's going to fire him within minutes or maybe seconds.
Ricky Kleeman, thank you. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins me now. Ed, good to see you. Trump finalized his cabinet picks over the weekend. Now that we have an expected makeup, is there a trend among the picks? How has reaction been, particularly over his flurry on Friday, 9 alone?
Well, we have seen, as you said, it was a real flurry Friday night. A lot of them sort of in the public health space. And it's probably going to take several more weeks before we get a good sense of how the Senate would respond to these picks. But all of them essentially people who meet the mold of the others, people who are either loyal to the president-elect or have supported him in the past, are good on TV, maybe were frequently on Fox News, for example, discussing the subject matter at hand. Some of them have had previous roles in the first Trump administration or on his campaign. But so far, no other real big red flags the way Matt Gaetz caused a stir. And we've still got several weeks to go, about 8 weeks or so, until the inauguration. Plenty of time for all these picks to be picked over. Notable that the CBS News polling shows, as you pointed out, 59% of Americans think the transition's going well so far. And for the most part, all of them being well received, not only by Republican voters, but by voters overall.
And our Dan Klaidman and Graham Cates have new reporting that at least one Republican politician has accused one of Trump's closest advisors, Boris Epstein, of profiting from his influence with Trump regarding the transition and the president-elect's cabinet picks. Who is Epstein? Why is he so close to the president? What is significant about this?
He's someone who's been around since the first Trump campaign and more recently was helping coordinate all of his legal cases. The accusations are that he was trying to profit from his position or try to compel people who were being considered for positions to seek some kind of financial arrangement with them. There's been an internal investigation. The thing to know about Epstein is he has clashed significantly, especially in recent weeks, with a lot of other Trump associates, those close to the transition, trying to plan out the government. And it looks as if he's on the outs now. Turf wars are nothing new in the Trump orbit, but this is a particularly nasty one that's developed over the last several days.
Ed O'Keefe, thank you. There's new hope for a ceasefire agreement between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. White House officials say talks are moving in a positive direction, but as CBS News foreign correspondent Deborah Patta explains, there are some final hurdles before the deal is complete.
A ceasefire between Lebanon and Hezbollah may be close, but it is not a done deal yet. Even as diplomats pushed for peace, rockets flew on both sides of the border, with Israel and Hezbollah trading some of its heaviest fire yet. This residential building, one of many taken down as deadly Israeli strikes across Lebanon, killed more than 80 people over the weekend. But Israel also felt Hezbollah's wrath. This is the moment a rocket smashed into the roof of a building in northern Israel as the Iranian-backed group fired a barrage of rockets. Away from the battlefield, there is significant progress towards a deal, but it still needs to be ratified by the Israeli cabinet. It would see Israeli troops withdraw from Lebanon and Hezbollah pushed all the way back north of the Litani River, with Lebanese troops and UN peacekeepers patrolling the area. After more than a year, everyone wants this war to end. There are more than 1.2 million people displaced in Lebanon and over 60,000 in northern Israel, all waiting to go home. And today, the White House said it has been actively involved in trying to get this deal done, but cautioned nothing is negotiated until everything is negotiated. Back to you.
Deborah Patta, thank you. This Thanksgiving travel week is expected to set records from the roads to the rails to the skies. According to AAA, nearly 80 million Americans are expected to travel at least 50 miles from home between Tuesday and the Monday after Thanksgiving. Many of those travelers will fly. The TSA says it expects to screen 18.3 million people at the nation's airports during that 7-day time frame. It marks a 6% increase from the same time last year. The surge in travelers comes as forecasters predict a wave of winter storms across the U.S. The National Weather Service in Sacramento, California, issued a warning for the Sierra Nevada area Saturday through Tuesday. California and the Pacific Northwest are already working to recover from a deadly bomb cyclone and atmospheric river that spread through the region last week. CBS News senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve is following things for us at Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey. Chris, how much is the winter weather expected to impact Thanksgiving travel, both flying and driving?
Well, the airlines feel very good about the forecast going into Thanksgiving. American Airlines today was telling us they've had about a 92% completion factor, on-time completion factor, I should say. So that's a really good number. If you have 92% of your flights arriving on time, even though we have had some weather issues today, we've seen very, very few cancellations given the number of flights that are flying. Even on Friday, when we were contending with storms on both coasts and staffing issues at air traffic control here in the New York area that impacted this airport, something that's happening again today. Overall, the airlines have performed very well. On the roads, you're going to see some places where you may have some icy conditions, certainly some very cold weather, particularly on the drive back. There is some chances for some potentially disruptive weather after the holiday. And, we know there'll be some rain and things along the way. So there will be points where the driving might sort of fall into the icky category, but it doesn't look like anything is shaping up to really derail people's treks home.
And Chris, I've seen your reporting on this, but walk us through the new American Airlines boarding system at select airports.
Sure. So American is rolling this out to 100 airports ahead of Thanksgiving, and it's basically a boarding system that will alert the gate agent if somebody is boarding before their group has been called. Basically, if you're whether you're intentionally or otherwise jumping the line, it's going to make a noise when you try to scan your boarding pass. It's going to flash on the gate agent's screen that this person is boarding too soon, and they're going to ask you to go back and wait your turn. They say that it has improved the flow of boarding in the airports where they have tested it, and it is really an effort to try to combat that crowding, that sort of surge of people that moves towards the boarding door when they start boarding. One of the big complaints, particularly from frequent flyers, is people getting in the way of the early boarding process and just sort of that crowding that complicates everyone. It becomes a bit of a game of Tetris to get on the airplane.
I like rules. I like order. I'm all for it. I haven't experienced it yet, but looking forward to it. All right. Before we let you go, workers at the airport in Charlotte, North Carolina began striking Monday. Tell us what these employees do, what they're demanding, and the potential impact. Charlotte is a hub for American.
Sure. These are airport support workers, folks who help with wheelchair assistance. They clean the airplanes in between flights, those kinds of things. They're seeking better pay. They make anywhere from $12 to about $19 an hour, and they say that's just not enough to live. So they staged a strike today. It has only really had minimal impacts on American's operation at Charlotte today. We expect this to probably be a one-day labor action, so probably not something that's going to disrupt later into the rush here as we get busier tomorrow, Wednesday, and Sunday at airports. But it is an ongoing labor dispute there over what the workers say is a wage that doesn't allow them to live, basically.
Okay. Chris Van Cleve, thank you.
Sure thing.
Up next, illegal border crossings under President Biden are set to reach a new low. What the numbers say about the current immigration policy ahead of a new administration. You're watching The Daily Report.
Come on, Julia. Oh, no. I will if you will. You go, gal. That's right.
Let me see if you can find me.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also that I lift up other voices.
You can't write a better script.
Yeah, boy! It's gonna be a ride. Sunshine down.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp.
How fast do you think you were going? 195 miles an hour.
This is incredible.
How close did you actually come to being killed?
That close.
Is this brain surgery without a knife?
It is.
What risk do these children pose to Russia?
I'm not sure the world is prepared for this change.
Definitely not.
Who's the best coach in college football today?
Let me see a mirror.
It's time for the CBS News original, 60 Minutes. Sundays on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. And reach for the stars.
There we are.
Todd.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun. But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I'm a voracious consumer of information and constantly curious. I want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table every Sunday.
When you need
your sports news all the time?
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
At this moment, terrorists could be plotting another attack.
9/11 triggered a counter-terrorist system that included a secret database.
This person needs a closer look.
A growing list of nearly 2 million people, including some Americans who say they're innocent.
For 1 hour flight, I have to spend 6 hours to go and come back.
CBS Reports explores the system, the people responsible for it, and those pushing for change.
I'm not fighting against them. I'm fighting for them to do the right thing.
The Watch List, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
A CBS News investigation. People looking for love, finding their life savings gone.
This could happen to anybody.
And sometimes losing their lives. Anything for love. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
A California judge is delaying his decision on whether to re-sentence the Menendez brothers until January. Lyle and Eric are currently serving life sentences without the possibility of parole for the 1989 murders of their parents. But in October, the outgoing Los Angeles district attorney requested a judge reconsider their sentences after new evidence in the case was introduced. CBS News correspondent Elise Preston reports. Elise?
Two elderly aunts of Eric and Lyle Menendez appeared in court today asking the judge for the release of the brothers who have been behind bars for more than 30 years. They're serving life sentences for the 1989 murders of their parents, Kitty and Jose Menendez. But the brothers, along with many family members, are fighting for release. The defense argues that the two suffered years of abuse from their father without intervention from their mother. The defense says the duo killed their parents in self-defense and out of fear. Today, the sisters of Jose and Kitty Menendez said that Eric and Lyle served enough time, arguing that the family is heartbroken over the abuse. The judge says he has 17 boxes of evidence he needs to review before making a ruling on a possible resentence. The judge also wants to give a recently elected DA time to review the case as well. The next court hearing is scheduled for January. Elise Preston, CBS News, Los Angeles.
President-elect Donald Trump is rounding out his cabinet with several choices to lead the nation's top health agencies. Trump has tapped environmental lawyer and vaccine critic Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to help reshape U.S. health care as Health and Human Services Secretary. The president-elect has also selected Dr. Mehmet Oz for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, Dr. Jeanette Neshawat for Surgeon General, Dr. Dave Weldon for the CDC, and Dr. Marty Makary for the FDA. CBS News has also learned that Jay Bhattacharya is Trump's top choice to lead the National Institutes of Health. Bhattacharya is a Stanford University medical professor and economist. He has supported overhauling the NIH, which oversees biomedical research in the U.S. He's also been critical of former NIH director Dr. Anthony Fauci and argued against lockdowns during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Richard Besser joins me now. He's the president and CEO of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, a health-focused nonprofit. He's also former acting director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Doctor, thank you so much for being here. Out of all the names that I just mentioned, anyone in particular among Trump's health picks that are raising the biggest red flags for you?
Well, Lindsay, I have to say it starts at the top, and that's with Robert F. Kennedy as the Secretary of Health. There are a few people in America who have done more to undermine people's faith in our vaccines than Mr. Kennedy. And so having someone in that role who has a big microphone and a big ability to influence what people think, who does not believe that we have one of the best systems for approving vaccines in the world, that's really concerning to me as a former pediatrician and public health professional. Because 30 years as a pediatrician, there's nothing I did that I know had more proven health benefit for my patients than making sure they were vaccinated fully and on time. And anything that could lead a parent to question whether they were doing the right thing by getting their child vaccinated for school worries me greatly.
Well, all of President-elect's choices have been highly critical of vaccines at some point, including his pick to lead the CDC, Dr. Dave Weldon. What impact could that have on public health?
Well, I have big concerns about Dr. Weldon as well. Part of it has to do with the stance he took around vaccines when he was in Congress. He was a major proponent of a connection between vaccines and autism. When the National Academy of Medicine studied that in detail and found there was absolutely no connection, he didn't buy it. He didn't accept it, and that concerns me because you need the head of the CDC to be someone who really believes in the power of science to answer important questions. I worked at the CDC for 13 years. I've never worked with people who are smarter, more committed to the health of people here and around the world. Dr. Weldon also will be leading an agency that plays a critical role in our nation whenever there's a public health emergency. We don't know what the next emergency will be, but I can guarantee you we will have additional public health emergencies. And in order to restore trust, you want to have someone in that role who has public health experience. And Dr. Weldon is a physician, but he has no experience in public health. And having someone in that role does concern. Without that experience, I find very concerning.
I mean, that said, Doctor, there are multiple outbreaks right now that are causing concern for public health officials. Are we prepared? And you said that you worked at the CDC for 13 years with many career professionals. I mean, a lot of his picks signal a shakeup and maybe even a desire to maybe remove some of the institutional employees of those agencies. What are your concerns with that?
Well, if you look across the department in every area, you see incredibly talented people who have committed themselves to government service. I think you can always do better. It's always valuable to come in and say, okay, how do we do this job better? How do we ensure that we are working for the American people as well as we can? I worked at the CDC under Republican and Democratic administrations, and I never had any doubt that the people leading the department believed in the people who worked at the CDC. I have great concerns when people are coming in saying, not just that they want to shake things up, but that they feel that the work that the agencies are doing is not good. That wholesale departments have to leave. That's very concerning. And I hope in the confirmation hearings that the senators ask tough questions. And in particular with Mr. Kennedy, ask the question: is this someone who will improve the health of people in my state or not? And if not, if the answer is no, you have to go with it and vote your conscience.
Dr. Richard Besser, thank you for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks very much.
Still to come, federal and local officials are on high alert to make sure the Thanksgiving holiday is safe. The potential threats they're tracking. You're watching The Daily Report.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
It was genocide, a deliberate effort by the United States government to eliminate the food source that was relied upon by Native American tribes.
American bison were slaughtered and Native Americans displaced.
And that's how tribes were subjugated to reservations and our lands were taken.
But now, through conservation efforts at Yellowstone,
Buffalo provided everything that we needed. Now they need help.
a herd grows.
We need to step up and help them.
And a culture is reborn.
When the buffalo return and come back, that's when our tribe will begin to heal.
Yellowstone Bison Revival, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Let 60 Minutes take you on a private tour of the National Archives.
So there may be treasures like this buried in boxes.
Historical secrets from America's past.
So this is original from 1778?
This case.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 Hours, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright shiny faces.
Nate has one of the quickest minds I've ever seen.
Put me in the game, coach.
Tony has a way of making people feel comfortable.
The best interviews feel like it's just a conversation with a neighbor.
Hey.
Gail has this unbelievable knack to ask a question that is the question that you're asking at home.
I've been told I could talk to a tree, and that's pretty much true.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my two good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
I'll see you in the morning.
Listening to how someone explains themselves is so key to understanding their perspective.
The grief of losing a child is immense. You can't breathe.
After decades of the war on drugs, things have only gotten worse.
Every shipment of fentanyl is a ticking time bomb.
50 times more powerful than heroin.
CBS Reports goes deep into Mexico.
What is your role in the Sinaloa cartel?
To find out why the cartels keep getting stronger and wealthier.
This is a war, but we're not fighting it. Our citizens are dying.
Funding Cartels, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Here are some additions to our top stories. Amazon workers in more than 20 countries are reportedly planning to go on strike between two of the busiest online shopping days of the year. Organizers say protests will take place between Black Friday and Cyber Monday in countries including the U.S. They say the goal is to raise awareness of what they call Amazon's anti-worker and anti-democratic practices. United Nations Annual Climate Summit ended this weekend with a $300 billion pledge to help developing nations deal with the effects of climate change. But those nations are slamming the deal as insufficient because it falls short of the $1.3 trillion those nations wanted. Jessica Tisch was sworn in Monday as the New York City Police Department's newest commissioner. She's the second woman to lead the NYPD and the fourth person under Mayor Eric Adams. For the past 2 years, Tisch was the head of the Department of Sanitation. For the first time under the Biden administration, illegal crossings at the southern border are on track to dip below 50,000 for the month of November. Internal data obtained by CBS News shows Border Patrol agents on average are recording a little more than 1,500 apprehensions each day this month. Despite this being a low for the Biden administration, illegal crossings overall have been high compared to the last two administrations. President-elect Donald Trump is promising to carry out mass deportations when he takes office. His incoming border czar, Tom Homan, had this advice for anyone in the U.S. illegally.
You should self-deport yourself. You should leave on your own will, because if we find you and you get ordered deportation, you got a 20-year bar. And if you choose while you're here to give birth to an illegal to a U.S. citizen child, well, guess what? When you get removed, you can leave the child here or you can take him with you.
CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez joins us now from Eagle Pass, Texas. Camilo, could you clarify what Homan is suggesting here? How would these self-deportations work and how many people could be affected?
Hi, Lindsay. Well, Homan here is suggesting that mixed status families, these are households that include immigrants who are in the country illegally, but also U.S. citizen children, for the most part, who are born here, have two options, have a binary choice under the second Trump administration. The parents can elect to be deported by Immigration and Customs Enforcement to their home country, or they can voluntarily return to their home country with their U.S. citizen children. The first option would, of course, entail them leaving their children here. That obviously raises a lot of questions as to who would take care of those children, whether that would be a relative, a family member who has legal status or is a U.S. citizen, or whether that child or those children have to be put in the local foster care system. That is an open question that still has to be answered. And in terms of how many people this could affect, we know that one study found that about 4 million U.S. citizen children live with at least one undocumented immigrant parent. And so there are millions of mixed status families here in the U.S. who could potentially be impacted by these mass deportations that the incoming administration is promising. But we should underscore, Lindsay, that Tom Homan and other Trump advisors have said that this massive deportation operation will initially target immigrants who are here unlawfully and who have committed serious crimes or who otherwise pose a threat to national security. And I emphasize initially, Lindsay, because the policy that Homan and others are articulating also means that no immigrant, whether they are serious criminals or people who lose their asylum cases, will be off the table in terms of being deported and arrested by ICE. And that is a dramatic policy change from current procedures.
Yeah, 4 million people impacted alone if that does come to fruition. Help us put these new border numbers into perspective. When was the last time we've seen consistent numbers like these?
Well, Lindsay, November is on track to see the lowest level in illegal immigration here at the U.S. Mexico border since August of 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic severely and sharply reduced migration to the U.S. and to other developed countries across the world. And right now, we know that Border Patrol is on track to record fewer than 50,000 migrant apprehensions, according to internal agency data that we obtained. Just to put that in perspective, Lindsay, just in December of last year, Border Patrol recorded 250,000 migrant apprehensions, nearly 250,000 illegal crossings. So border crossings across the board have plummeted since then. And we also know that there are really two main factors for that massive and sharp reduction in illegal immigration here. The number one factor is that Mexico has continued to interdict and stop many migrants from setting foot on American soil in the first place. And we also know that the Biden administration has continued to implement this asylum policy that basically disqualifies most migrants who cross this border behind me illegally from being able to get legal protection in the U.S. And that policy has dramatically reduced the number of people who are being released into the country with notices to appear in court. And that has always been perceived to be, Lindsay, a pull factor that attracts migration to the U.S.
Camilo Montoya Galvez, thank you. Sources have confirmed to CBS News that a Republican senator has blocked the promotion of a 3-star general who was involved in the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Lieutenant General Christopher Donahue, seen in this photo boarding a plane out of Afghanistan in 2021, was the last U.S. soldier to leave following a chaotic and deadly exit. He was set to receive the rank of 4-star general and take charge of the U.S. Army in Europe as part of a batch of hundreds of military promotions sent to the Senate last week. But the Republican senator from Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, blocked it in an apparent effort to allow President Trump to weigh in. Trump has previously said he would fire senior officers involved in the Afghanistan withdrawal. Federal and local authorities are reportedly warning the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade here in New York City could be a target for would-be terrorists. Security is typically high for large-scale gatherings such as the annual parade. Law enforcement officials will also need to be on high alert for what could be the busiest and most crowded holiday travel season yet. CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd joins us now. Sam, what are federal authorities looking out for when it comes to big events like the Thanksgiving Day Parade?
Well, Lindsay, Thanksgiving overall is an all-hands-on-deck moment for law enforcement at all levels, whether that's federal, state, local, or tribal or territorial. That's because bad actors of all kinds oftentimes seek to implement attacks on holidays. That's because holidays typically involve mass gatherings where you have a lot of people in one place, and they're high profile. So bad actors think that if they implement an attack, they could get a lot of media attention. And that's why law enforcement officials at all levels of government prepare for months for massive events like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. We have the NYPD in coordination with partners all throughout the city and all throughout the country to make sure they're aware of potential threats, whether it be physical threats coming from the air, like drones, physical security threats on the ground, like vehicle ramming, or individuals who seek to cause harm to the parade itself and its spectators who are witnessing it.
Let's talk about travel. We could see record travel numbers this Thanksgiving weekend. What about threats at airports or transit hubs?
Well, the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, is preparing to screen a little bit less than 20 million passengers over the next couple of days. They are on high alert for terrorism-related threats, as well as other aviation threats that could disrupt both actual airport activities, individuals who are trying to go through the airport, as well as individuals on planes, as well as large traffic jams that could be a cause for concern from a threat perspective. So we have the TSA taking extraordinary measures from a screening perspective, as well as federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial officials throughout the country ensuring that traffic moves as quickly as possible to diminish any threats on the roads as well, Lindsay.
Sam Vinograd, thank you.
Thanks.
Multiple weather systems are forecast to drop rain and snow across the country this week. CBS News national weather correspondent Rob Marciano explains what conditions to expect.
Hey, Lindsay, very busy travel week and very busy weather week. We've got a couple of impact systems that are going to be impacting the entire country from coast to coast. First one is in the Midwest right now in the Great Lakes with rainfall, and it stretches all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. This will be pushing over the Appalachians overnight tonight. The warm front gets into the Northeast tomorrow, so it will be warm, but it will be wet. A quick mover. Substantial rains, 1/4 of an inch. They'll take it in that drought area, and then windy conditions. While that's happening right now, we've got rain and mountain snow hitting California. How much snow do we expect in the Intermountain West? Look at some of our computer models, what they're pumping out here. A foot or two in the Wasatch of Utah, maybe 2 feet of snow across parts of the Colorado Rockies. That's going to be a problem for I-70 travel, but if you're traveling to go skiing in the mountains for Thanksgiving Day, you're looking at some fresh powder. All right, this is what it looks like Thanksgiving Day itself. Here's our system. It is it got more oomph to it. Heavier rain across I-90, north of I-90 and through upstate New York. That's where it's going to be snow. And as this pushes into the Northeast, it looks to be a pretty stormy and certainly wet day for the big cities across the Northeast. Lindsay?
Rob Marciano, thank you. A white woman who fatally shot her black neighbor through her front door in 2023 has been sentenced to 25 years in prison. Susan Lawrence was convicted in August of second-degree manslaughter for killing A.J. Owens in Central Florida. The two had been arguing over Owens' children playing outside. Prosecutors say Owens went to Lawrence's home after her kids said she threw an umbrella and roller skates at them. Lawrence denies this and claims she feared for her life when Owens began yelling and pounding on her door. The door to Lawrence's home was locked and Owens was unarmed. Now to Texas, where a federal judge plans to hold another hearing to decide whether satirical news outlet The Onion can move forward with the purchase of conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' company InfoWars. CBS News correspondent Janet Shamlian has the latest from Houston. Janet?
So the headline from federal court here in Houston is that there is no decision today. There will be a hearing at a TBD date in December, and at that time, the judge may make a decision. This came after the Alex Jones group filed a complaint. They wanted a rehearing because they felt after this auction happened last month, it was awarded to The Onion in agreement with the Sandy Hook families that The Onion had the winning bid to take over the InfoWars website. And Alex Jones and a group that he works with that basically sells nutritional supplements under his name felt that this was an unfair auction, that they had the higher bid. And they argued that it was done in collusion with the court trustee. The court trustee said, no, this was the other bid, and it was a better bid for the creditors. But there were really no formal arguments today, a little bit of posturing from each side. The Sandy Hook family said that this was just Alex Jones trying to hold on to his website a while longer and his platform while he tries to move people over to his new platform. The judge wasn't having any of it. He said that he would hear this either the second or the third week of December when the parties could do their discovery. He wanted everybody in court at that time, no virtual appearances as there were today, and there might be some depositions required ahead of time. So a lot is riding on this. There are a lot of parties involved, and of course, this all stems from the judgment that Alex Jones was fined or liable for more than $1.5 billion for calling the Sandy Hook massacre in 2012 a hoax, and that it was staged by actors in order to toughen gun controls, that he then had to sell off his assets, resulting in this recent auction. So we won't know for another few weeks or so. Back to you.
Janet Shamlian, thank you. How much money does it take to be financially successful? Well, that answer varies from generation to generation. We'll tell you which age group thinks nearly $600,000 a year is the magic number. You're watching The Daily Report.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
That desired farm is a wonderful place to raise children, and it still is.
Promises broken.
Black Americans have been the target of racism and discrimination pretty much from the time they acquired ownership in the land.
Costing black farmers hundreds of billions in generational wealth.
They did everything to make sure we were run off that land.
But communities are uniting to continue the fight.
Collective ownership is powerful.
To keep their land and their dreams alive.
To watch my children play on land that we own means everything.
So land is power.
Most definitely.
40 Acres and a Mule, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Go to the ends of the earth. Reach for the stars.
Yeah, I just took off. That kind of thing.
Oh, that's pretty good. Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I can see clearly now.
Clearly, CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, coming?
No, I'm going to stick around for an hour.
CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel, right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
These 7 miles of tunnels were the secret storage site for fuel for the Navy's Pacific Fleet in planes.
So this is one of the tanks.
Oh my gosh.
What happened 20 stories below ground is a story for 60 Minutes.
This thing that was a lifeline for the fleet is a threat.
That's right.
I'm Erin Moriarty of 48 Hours, and of all the cases I've covered, this is the one that troubles me most. Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, the troubled case against Crosley Green, wherever you get your podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
AI is among the most world-changing technologies ever.
Curing diseases, scientific breakthroughs, making lives better.
They can help us with medical discoveries, scientific discoveries, doing better agriculture, having cures for things like Alzheimer's.
It's also going to really transform the way we work.
The uplifting potential of artificial intelligence is limitless.
It gives you a friend, somebody to chat with 24/7 that is non-judgmental. He makes me feel loved and desired.
And so are its downfalls.
The problem with all this AI is that it's unpredictable and uncontrollable.
The choices we make now will have lasting effects for decades, maybe even centuries.
The ChatGPT revolution, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Sunday morning, a visit with the Wayans at Papa's house, plus affairs of state with the diplomat, and in praise of pigeons. Listen for the trumpet.
What defines financial success? Depends on who you ask. According to a new survey from financial service company Empower, Gen Z Americans believes it takes a salary of $588,000 to be considered financially successful. That's more than double the figure from other generations. And the average American believes a $270,000 salary makes them a financial success. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins us now for more on this. Kelly, what is behind this 270,000 number, and is that actually attainable?
Okay, so sadly, I don't think that's attainable for the average American. I was looking up some numbers, and if you make over $200,000, that puts you in the top 10%.
The top 10%, wow.
That is, by definition, not average.
Yes.
And so I actually, just for fun, I looked up a couple of jobs that make over $270,000. Plastic surgeon, anesthesiologist, dermatologist. These are all jobs that require lots of schooling, lots of money, lots of loans.
Debt.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that's not for everyone. And so when you think about, to your original question of what's driving this, it's a lot of frustration that what we have is not enough and it's getting worse.
People are feeling broke.
Yes.
They're like, what I'm making right now, it ain't cutting it.
Yes.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Government data shows that some Americans are paying more for childcare than they are in their monthly rent. How did we get here, and what areas are feeling this the worst?
Well, Lindsay, I'm thinking about having kids with my husband, and I'm going, this is one of the things that's so scary, right? And also one of the things that makes us feel broke. So how did we get here? Okay, so inflation, that's childcare got hit as well.
Yep.
There were also pandemic funds that helped daycare centers stay open. Those expired last fall, and so companies had to raise prices. And then finally, demand. Lots of people had children during the pandemic. They're having to go back to work to make ends meet. They're having to go back to work in person, so they need that daycare. And some of the places that are hardest hit, the Bronx, right here in New York, Stearns County in Minnesota, Essex County in Vermont. It's all over the place.
Wow. Speaking of a mother of a 2.5-year-old, yes, it is. It is what keeps me up at night. But the Dow hit a new record close Monday. What's behind this market boom?
The Treasury pick from President-elect Trump. So markets like Scott Bessent, they're saying, look, he's going to be pro-deregulation. That drives economic growth. He's going to trim government spending. That's good for inflation. And he is going to be more for a gradual rollout of tariffs. And that's also going to be good for inflation, where you don't have companies having to deal with that all at once and hike prices significantly. Basically, markets are looking at this and saying he's more of a tempered pick, and that will help balance out President-elect Trump.
One last thing before we let you go. Macy's says an employee actually kept as much as $154 million in expenses hidden, delaying the company's quarterly release. How? What?
I know, right? So we don't have a lot of details on this yet. They're saying that this didn't really impact paying vendors or their cash flow. But really, if you're an investor, you're looking at this and saying, man, you need a new auditing team.
Wow.
And Macy's, of course, is having a lot of issues already. Their quarterly sales dropped 2.4%. So investors are kind of looking at this and going, okay, not so great.
Okay. Kelly O'Grady, thank you so much. Covered a lot of ground with you tonight. Appreciate it. There's no foul play in this long-standing White House tradition. President Biden pardons 2 turkeys ahead of Thanksgiving. We'll introduce you to the feathered friends. You're watching The Daily Report.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now. We got something crazy.
And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
At this moment, terrorists could be plotting another attack.
9/11 triggered a counter-terrorist system that included a secret database.
This person needs a closer look.
A growing list of nearly 2 million people, including some Americans who say they're innocent.
For 1-hour flight, I have to spend 6 hours to go and come back.
CBS Reports explores the system, the people responsible for it, and those pushing for change.
I'm not fighting against them. I'm fighting for them to do the right thing.
The Watch List, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go. With the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives, real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Haitians are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Hey there, welcome to The Uplift.
I thought she was a groom, and I stepped back and I went, oh, you're the queen. She's gonna be with me every instant that I'm alive.
I just wanted to see if you'd go to Disneyland with me today.
I look over at him and he's smiling.
I'm going to remember that the rest of my life.
They told us when he was going to be born, he was only going to live for 30 minutes. It's really a miracle that he's with us today.
The Uplift, stream now on the free CBS News app.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright, shiny faces.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my 2 good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings.
A CBS News investigation. People looking for love, finding their life savings gone,
This could happen to anybody.
and sometimes losing their lives. Anything for love. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Let's talk turkey. President Biden carried out the last Thanksgiving turkey pardon of his administration Monday, sparing Peach and Blossom. The 2 birds were pardoned after a 16-hour trip from Minnesota to the White House. They were named after the official flower of the president's home state of Delaware, the peach blossom. The newly freed birds will now ride the gravy train back to a farm in Minnesota to keep calm and gobble on. Out with the birds, in with the tree. First Lady Jill Biden received the official White House Christmas tree Monday, alongside members of the North Carolina National Guard and their families. The Fraser fir came from Cartner's Christmas Tree Farm in the Tar Heel State. The Cartner family says the nearly 19-foot tree showcases the resilience of North Carolina farmers after the state was pummeled by Hurricane Helene 2 months ago. Well, a year after Barbenheimer took movie theaters by storm, another double feature of highly anticipated films boosted the box office over the weekend. Wicked and Gladiator 2, collectively known as Glicked. The Glicked opening weekend saw a combined $270 million in worldwide ticket sales. And the gender divide of the Glicked crowd was stark. 72% of Wicked ticket holders were women. 61% of Gladiator 2 ticket holders were men. Gladiator 2 is being distributed by Paramount, CBS News 24/7's parent company. If you need something else to look forward to on the big screen, a nostalgic game from many of our childhoods is being developed into a movie. Apple is looking to make the Oregon Trail computer game into an action comedy film 50 years after the game's first program was developed. The Oregon Trail eventually became a computer game staple for children in the 80s and 90s. Since its creation in 1971, the game has sold tens of millions of copies and is featured in the World Video Game Hall of Fame. I wonder if there's going to be a lot of death in it, because I feel like my characters always died fording the river, or like of dysentery or something. They were always dying of something. No word yet on a possible release date. Here's a look at some of the stories we're covering in our next hour. A major legal victory for President-elect Trump as special counsel Jack Smith files to strike some charges against him. What this means for Trump's legal future as he prepares to return to the Oval Office. Israel and Hezbollah trade fire despite hopes of a nearing truce. We'll have the latest on the conflict from Tel Aviv. And it's one of the busiest travel weeks of the year. We'll have a look at the state of the skies and possible turbulence for Thanksgiving travelers. You're streaming CBS News.
CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation.
More money-saving tips, more recipes.
More uplifting ways to get you on your way.